Unfortunately, we're going to start off hour number 2 with some crappy news. Damian Lillard, now Milwaukee Bucks star point guard, has been unfortunately diagnosed with a deep vein thrombosis in his right calf. That is otherwise known as a blood clot. Dame has been dealing with calf issues on and off for 3-4 years. That right calf has been bothering him. It sucks. So, number one, this is not, I mean, it's scary, but I was able to talk to Dame a little bit yesterday afternoon, and he's not freaked out in the sense of like he's not worried about this being the life-threatening type. I've talked to a few other people around the league. Number one, this is happening to him later in life. If it's a problem, it's hereditary and it presents itself earlier, and it's something you're made aware of a lot sooner. What does it mean for Dame immediately? Well, he's on blood thinners, and I don't know if this is the one he's on, but warfarin, I believe, is the typical blood thinner that they use, and the minimum usage for that is 3 months. It's usually 6 months, and with that, he cannot play.
Is it just because, like, if there were a cut or an injury, it wouldn't stop?
It would be very bad.
Gotcha.
It would be very bad because your blood is thinned, so it does not clot, and it can be life-threatening. So, what does this mean? Well, he has to go through this cycle with the blood thinners for 3 to 6 months. As long as everything goes well, he can return and be fine. But he can't do anything. He can't have like physical activity basically for 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
It's a big deal in that sense. It's the same thing that Sar Thompson went through, that Victor Wembanyama is going through right now, and the unfortunate one is obviously Chris Bosh. With Chris Bosh, he went through it once and it came back. The second you get it the second time, you're done. You're on blood thinners the rest of your life.
Gotcha.
And that is why Chris Bosh had to retire, is because he's on blood thinners for the rest of his life. Because it's a bigger issue typically with guys like Chris Bosh because they're bigger.
They're taller,
yeah. Longer circulatory systems, and it can become more problematic. This is typically the kind of thing that you worry about with bigger people, because it takes a lot of a heart to push blood through a body that big. And when you run into those kind of issues, it becomes a problem. Dame has had obviously a rough bout of luck the last couple of years.
Bucks in general.
Well, I mean, Dame specifically, whether it be the core muscle surgery that he dealt with for, 7-8 years before it got really bad over 4 or 5 years, and he finally had it dealt with. It took him a while to come back from that. Obviously, off the court stuff. But now this. And then on top of dealing with the trade request and all the stuff that came with that. And it's part of his own doing in a sense, but it's a big deal, to leave his family, leave his home, go to Milwaukee. Like, it's his personal stuff, but like he was out there by himself basically. Like he moved into Drew Holiday's old place, and I believe it was him and his cousin were the only guys really out there, because it's Milwaukee,
right?
And it's it happened right before the season, and it's just a lot, I feel bad for him. Like I said, I talked to him, and he's obviously disappointed. But he's not shockingly confident that he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because that's what Dame, if nothing, is always able to conquer everything.
Why does this keep coming up? Like it seems, and on the text line, we had a couple people text in about it where they were like, it feels like this is coming up a bunch this year. And maybe it's just because it just happened to Victor Wembanyama. You talked about Asar Thompson, right? So maybe it's just like, this is like, I remember in college, like it seemed like every year there was one injury that like 4 or 5 guys would have. Like one year it's like, 4 guys tore their labrums, or like, the next year, 4 guys tore their ACLs. A year after, 6 guys tore their meniscus. Like, is it just random luck, or is there something that's happening? Are we getting better on being able to diagnose it earlier so then it doesn't become a big problem later on down the line?
I honestly don't know. I've asked some doctors, some medical experts on this in the league. I have not heard back from any of them yet. I'm with a thing like this, they'll talk to me in general terms.
Yeah.
But there's stuff that comes along with this stuff, and they're not going to talk about an active player, or they'll, especially with stuff like this, that it's so specific, and it can be a million different things. It could be genetic. It could be hereditary. It could be because of an injury. It could be because of X or Y or Z, and there's just so many things that can go into it. When you tear a knee, you tear a knee.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. You can see it.
Yeah.
You watch it. It's like, oh yeah, that's bad for your knee. That doesn't look good.
You break a bone, like when you have, stress injuries, those are easier to diagnose. Even something like Joel Embiid with like all of his knee problems. Yeah, there's a million different things that people are talking about. Like, they talked about that crazy surgery where they break his hip and recenter his leg. Like, that's extreme, but like, you kind of, there's an X and a Y. Like, you know the variables in the equation, where with the blood clot, you don't.
Right.
I mean, you're just talking circulatory system. A million different factors could play into it. I will talk to Dame about it and be like, hey, do you know kind of what came out of this? Probably won't be something I share, but I'm interested to know, like, hey, you okay? Like, what, do you know, like, what led to this, or kind of what caused this?
Right.
But it can be
cheese.
I mean, it could be a million different things. What I am trying to understand, and the question that I did ask to a couple different trainers and doctors and such was, is there more active testing for this? That's the thing that I'm kind of wondering, is like, hey, when you've got like a chronic injury like this, like, are you guys looking for this now because of like, hey, we've explored, again, the variables. Like, hey, if you've got a calf issue, your kinetic chain, which I'm way too familiar with now. Down from starting at the basically the top of your hips down to your ankles, and obviously your back figures into it too. But typically, when
it's all connected,
you're talking about your kinetic chain. You're usually talking about your lower body, basically from the top of your glutes down to your toes.
Right.
And so what they'll usually do is, if you have particularly soft tissue, when you're talking muscle related, they'll exhaust that stuff. Like they'll measure your leg length and be like, hey, like, why is there? Like, Greg Oden is a great example of this. One leg was longer than the other, and it started when he was younger. And his hip, like they had to like basically pull his hip, or his hip was too high, and they had to like pull his hip down when he was younger to try to get it normal,
closer to even.
Yeah, and even that wasn't enough. I believe, if remembering it right, one leg was 1.5 inches longer than the other. When he got to Portland, he got fitted for orthotics to help balance that out. And Greg mentioned this, I want to say like a week or two ago. And basically the next day is when he ended up like getting in and having microfracture surgery. He was like, oh my God, this feels weird, kind of a deal. And yeah, and they went in and they're like, yeah, this is going to require some work. And we don't do the microfracture surgery because Greg,
doesn't work.
Amari Stoudemire, there's one other one. Like, it just
doesn't work.
No, remember, it's the opposite of Tommy John. Remember, Tommy John was like, this is the last ditch effort. Now it's like guys are coming back stronger, with Tommy John. It's like, okay, this is the opposite effect. Like, they thought microfracture would be a thing, and as crazy as the Joel Embiid stuff is, like, Joel Embiid, like, an option on the table was microfracture surgery, which is, that lets you know how insane that whole situation is. But again, back to like the soft tissue stuff, is they'll look at your kinetic chain. And, do you have,
muscle imbalances,
yes, and
weaknesses?
And everybody
can we strengthen
does.
this? Can we strengthen that?
You do everything you can. Like, nobody is symmetrical. As much as like we talk about like beauty and like being like, the more symmetrical your face is, the more attractive you are. It's like, it's like math. It's crazy. You are going to have.
That's why I'm an Adonis.
Exactly.
Yes.
Most symmetrical person I know, Jeff Rust. But what's interesting about it is that you do try to work out those imbalances. Like, part of my physical therapy, when I came back, I had to literally relearn how to walk after each hip surgery. And 90% of my physical therapy work was working on imbalances.
Right.
Because you have to relearn how to make things fire. And that's things like some guys, like, you got right-footed jumpers, left-footed jumpers. You have two-footed jumpers, and it's you after doing this thousands of times, tens of thousands of times in your life, you develop imbalances. And so you kind of take a look at that kind of stuff as the first boxes you're going to check. You aren't testing for blood clots because a guy's calf is bothering him. You know what I mean?
No, it's you. When you have an issue with your car, the first thing you don't go to is like, time to buy a new transmission. Everyone goes through the same things when they have their issues. That's why it can take so long to find these issues.
Yeah, and the fan text line brings up a great one. The Orlando Magic with Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner both had oblique tears,
which is weird.
That's a baseball injury. It's pitcher injury.
It's a quarterback injury. It's what Quinn Ewers had.
Yes.
It's a rotation-based injury.
And yes, there's a lot of rotation in the NBA, but
not like that.
Not like that.
Yeah.
And, there was the core muscle surgeries that came through Portland like crazy. Obviously, Gary Payton II, his was a little bit different because he did 3 previous, or he got his 3rd in Portland. Dame, Nasir, and Shaden all had core muscle surgeries.
That's right.
And that's why the Blazers kind of revamped their staff, was like, hey, they weren't blaming them, but it was, hey, let's change some stuff just to see if this is
right. If this is us,
it's hey, maybe we're training something weird, or maybe we're over exhausting something, or we're not treating again. It wasn't a blame; it was a let's take that off the table.
Right. Well, and that happens a lot. Like when you go to different colleges, hopefully good high schools, but pros. They look at all of that at the end of the year. It's, hey, what were our common injuries that we had? Oh, we had a bunch of knee injuries. What can we change in the training room to help fix that? What can we change in the weight room to help fix that? What can we change in the off-season program to help fix that? They call other teams.
Yep.
They call other universities. Yep. Hey, what are you doing? Let's compare. Hey, you're having a bunch of knee injuries. You used to have a bunch of knee injuries, but now you don't. What's the exercises that you added in around this time? Okay, we're going to start doing that too. It's all an imperfect science.
Yeah, you're always constantly in high school. This is the early onset of this stuff in football. Brian Cassidy, who played at Stanford, he got hurt in college. He was an NFL prospect, but he opened up his own training facility type program.
Yep.
And we were the first guinea pigs. And if I remember right, we had a reduction in soft tissue injuries of 90%.
Yep.
It was insane because, in the late 90s, early 2000s, you're still traditional weight training.
You are bench press, squat, and deadlift.
Yes, a lot of Olympic lifts, which still happens, but we moved to more body weight centric stuff, and everything we did was based on our core. Everything we did started with core work, endless amounts of core work. And what he would do is he would take a picture of us in front of a big graph paper.
Yeah,
and you could you use a ruler to see where imbalances were. And you do one leg test, other leg test, one arm test, other arm test, to find where your imbalances were. And then we had what were called quote unquote menus. And those menus were catered to you to help you work through imbalances and kind of break through some things.
Right.
And we were incredibly talented. We ended up winning a state title, but also we were bigger, stronger, faster, more mobile than we had ever been. But that was the first onset of this stuff was really the early 2000s. Now you go into these training facilities and it's just it's a university. The stuff that they do, the science, wearable tech.
Yep.
Most
the sports bras.
Most of the sports teams, it's called Slingshot.
Yep.
And it's football players wear it, soccer players wear it, NBA players wear it.
Rugby players wear it a lot. Yep. It's big in rugby. Yep.
And what they're tracking is your load.
Yeah, it will literally tell you hey, he can do for football. Hey, he can do 1 tackling session today.
Yeah,
he can't do more
because we've tracked
He's
this.
He's too tired.
We could actually track we could see you get markers over the course of time and go. You see what their peak performance is. You see what their bottom performance is, and you want to try to manage that. And if all of a sudden you can well, a guy could be dogging it. But they're professional athletes, but still you have bad days, you have good days. That's why you have these ranges to work within. And if all of a sudden you start getting outside the ranges, they can see your top speed. They can see your acceleration, your deceleration. Your they can see impact force. There's all kinds of stuff that's out there now, and so I'm sure now, not just with Dame, but these guys that have had this, they've gone through all the other stuff, and
Guaranteed they have.
And then they go, okay, let's take a look here and see what we can find.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if it's something that we're just looking for it more.
Yeah, maybe because of the testing, it is better. Remember in the 60s, 50s, 70s, when a pitcher used to be able to throw really hard and then all of a sudden just one day he couldn't throw hard anymore, everyone just went, oh, his arm died. He's got a dead arm now. Yeah. Well, he probably tore something.
Yeah.
He probably had a UCL injury. He probably had a shoulder injury. He had an injury, but because it wasn't this graphic thing or this graphic tear or back then they didn't believe in overworking yourself, right? they didn't go back and fix it. But because now we have the technology and we have a better understanding, not a perfect understanding, but a better understanding, we can go through the checklist. But that's also why, like you said, Dame's been dealing with the calf injury for a couple weeks. It takes a couple weeks to figure out, hey,
if it's not A, then it's not B, and it's not, you have to exhaust the options.
Yes, this is going to be like G, or H, or I down the line.
Look at you use letters.
Hey, man, I have my moments. Can't do it in Espanol, but I can do it in ours.
Not too bad, but hey,
that does suck for Dame.
Shout out to Dame. Hopefully he gets better soon. Wish him nothing but the best. It sucks. Even on another team, it's still my guy. I wish nothing but the best for him, and I hate to see him have to deal with another thing. And this is scary. It is. So hopefully he's able to go through the time that needs to go through the blood thinners and have it just be another, a crappy mark on his career. It's
a blip.
It's unfortunate that the timing of it is, and the last thing that matters is the basketball. I want Dame to be healthy, but on the basketball court, I mean, for the Bucks, this is damaging.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. So